everyone, Jester Bell is finally back with a review of Batman Eye of the Beholder, which I might as well call Two-Face Eye of the Beholder. In fact, I almost just did, because as you can tell by the cover, it really is just a Two-Face story. This tells the origin of Two-Face, which you might recognize more if you read comics from Batman The Long Halloween. Most people recognize it from there. But I find this story, Eye of the Beholder, to be the superior Two-Face origin story. In terms of being written in comics, I think it's the best version of his origin story ever told, and we'll get into why. One of the smaller reasons is Long Halloween was basically a Batman story, a Batman mystery story, with Two-Face tacked on as a supporting character, and while we mention some of his psychology and what's going on with him, we don't really get to delve into it. But this comic is just a Two-Face story, and this time Batman is in the background. And we get to see how Batman and Commissioner Gordon are and what the state of the city is at this time, and that's great for continuity, but it really just takes Harvey Dent, and we really get to dive into all the facets of his character and how he became what he is, and what works behind him in his psychology. And it really proves that Two-Face, maybe second only to the Joker, is probably the second best Batman villain. Now, not the best villainous character. I might put Harley up there in her better appearances, but as a Batman villain, I think Two-Face is the second best. Especially since he's, when done right, he is allowed to have a very interesting dynamic with Batman as well, which isn't delved in so much in this comic, and I'll talk about that later. But let's delve in and talk about what makes this comic work so well. So, Two-Face is based off of the story of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, and he's supposed to play off the idea, of course, of someone having a side that is almost purely good, someone who wants to do the right thing, someone who is very strong, and a side that's purely maniacal and just beastly and evil. And so we get a very, very kind of dark telling of that kind of story. A very different take, though. We start off with someone, a doctor, who murders his patients. He especially likes to murder old people, and he's just the most maniacal character possible. But the thing about this doctor and why it's been so hard to nail him is that he has, again, this Jekyll and Hyde personality. He is a beast, and they know that he has done these things, but they can't nail him because when he's in court, he's so pure and so good, and he actually has friends and he has a social life, and so many of his friends think that he has never done these things. And our story begins, of course, Harvey Dent has to prosecute this guy, and he just wants nothing better than to put this guy away or put him on death row because of all the evil he's done. And he is just the creepiest character. It's just very difficult to read in the beginning because of how dark and scary it is. And so the beginning starts with that, where Harvey Dent and Batman behind the scenes and Gordon are trying to nail this guy, but they just can't. They can't find the proper evidence against this guy. No one buys him with his personality that he gives off in court, that he is this monster, and so they lose the case, and this guy gets set free. So then Harvey goes to him, and he's furious, and he just asks him, how do you do it? How do you put up this charade? And this creeper, this monster, this murderer tells Harvey that some people hide themselves, that they can easily hide this monster in them that will come out whenever. It's just so easy to put on an act, and he accuses Harvey of putting on that act, which is interesting because in the opening scene of the story, we saw Harvey having nightmares about sort of being a monster. So Harvey, in this scene I'm talking about, is so disgusted by this man, this murderer, that he almost throws up. He's just that disgusted by him. You see good Harvey there. So we see this monster of a man go home, have his social life again. He's off scot-free, and then he gets a call in the middle of the night, and someone says, "You were right about me," and his house explodes. And that's kind of the entire first act of the comic. Now, there is going to be spoilers. You probably have figured out some of the story, but obviously we are dealing with Harvey Dent. Again, two sides of himself, one that really wants to put away criminals, one that's just a monster and just wants to do so in the most lethal way possible. But we get into why Harvey does this. It's not just because its work is really stressful and it's not just because he was born that way and this is just the way he is. What isn't really explored, and it wasn't explored in The Dark Knight, it wasn't explored in the animated series, is where the entire idea of Harvey's coin, why he flips a coin, and why he does that little game with people, where that comes from. Where it comes from, as explained in this book, is his father. His father was a drinker and a gambler who used to play a game with him. He would come home at night and he would flip a coin, and if the coin was heads or tails, then he would say, beat his son. And if it was heads, then he would say, well, I'm going to beat you, you've been bad. If it was tails, he would say, well, you're a good boy, I'm not going to beat you. He played that game of odds with his son. And so as you can see, that's what is explored in this book. That's what destroyed the psychology of Harvey Dent's brain. That's how he gets in this kind of complex where he tries to copy that and do that with himself and do that with other people, playing that game. And he has so much pent-up anger inside over his father that's pretty much what the two-faced personality of him is. But of course there's another side of him that wants to care about his father, and so you can also see two sides of the personality, though. He hates him, but he wants to care about him because that's what a son should do, no matter how bad his father is. And so throughout the story, we get to kind of unlock the history of Harvey Dent and how getting into law and putting criminals behind bars was actually able to help him suppress his alternate personality, but now it's just getting too much and he can't handle it anymore. And it becomes a mystery story where someone is similar to The Long Halloween, where someone is doing these horrendous acts and they can't figure out who. Obviously, it's Harvey and he can't keep his personality in. But I just love how this story thematically is able to keep with the theme of people having two sides of their personalities, people being two-faced, of course. Another example of that would be Harvey Dent's secretary, who it just seems to be a regular secretary, and we find out later that he has actually been working with people to take down Harvey. Obviously, there's people in the city who don't like Harvey because of what he does for the city, because he's such a powerful lawyer. So we find out that Harvey Dent's secretary, who we thought was a good guy, it turns out that he's only working to sell out Harvey to the mob, and he takes a deal for some money in order to, and he agrees to blast Harvey with the acid, which is what ultimately makes his mental state totally destroy the stress of that, and it gives him the actual scarred half of the face while in court. So it is a very dark read, a very depressing read, but it's frightening and it's intriguing to see this character and all the layers to him. I think that Harvey Dent is really underused. I think he could use it a lot more. People keep saying what kind of supervillain should they do next after the success of the Joker movie? Who other than the Joker, who could they use? I keep saying, if you're not going to do something related to the Joker, do Two-Face. That'd be perfect. He's just this I could definitely see an A-list actor coming to play Harvey Dent and to depict this story. It's Eye of the Beholder is way better than The Long Halloween. I could definitely see it deals with very mature themes, very complex themes. You could definitely make, and it doesn't end with a big slam bang action scene. There's not too much action in this. And so it could definitely be an art film that I could see people go to. But as a friend tells me, studios are not going to trust another character to sell unless it's the Joker. So I guess it's a lot more difficult to get this story off the ground than it seems. For some criticisms with the book, mainly just a technical thing, because whenever Bruce Wayne is talking, whenever we get him in the book, it always does his thoughts in cursive, and it's really small and really together with the ink, and I could barely read it. The other thing I think is a missed opportunity, other than, even though I understand why, is we never get to see the friendship between Bruce and Harvey like we did in the animated series, and that's what I'm talking about in terms of them having a great dynamic, where Harvey was Bruce's only friend in real life, and then he just goes downhill and he has to lose him, and then he is now one of his biggest villains. We never get to see that in the book, and I wish we did. It's kind of a trade-off. In the animated show, we couldn't see the part about Two-Face's abusive father. Maybe it was too dark. And in this, we don't get to see the part about Bruce and Harvey's friendship, which is unfortunate. I wish a movie could come along and bring the best of both worlds together. Two-Face absolutely could make a fantastic standalone movie with this material. and maybe someday we'll get it. We'll see. I just tend to think Warner Brothers gets the wrong ideas from their successes. But I give this book a 9 out of 10, 9.5 out of 10. 9 out of 10. High score for this. Please check it out. It's not that hard to find. It's found in Two-Face trade paperbacks or on eBay. I got this comic for only 85 cents plus shipping, and it is more than worth the price. So thank you for watching. I'll be back soon with another review. See you next time.